Hey, what's up? Zach here, and these are the top 10 tennis shoes of all time so far. And I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty tough to boil down all these years of tennis history into just 10 shoes. So my strict criteria was the shoe's technology innovation for the time, the shoe's impact on the sport, and the big moments that the shoe was present for in the history of the sport. And at number 10, we're going back to 1986, when Goodyear decided to get into the tennis business with its collaboration with Wilson and the Prostaff Classic. There were plenty of copycats to the Prostaff Classic. However, this shoe represented a major shift from the more leather and suede shoes with gum rubber soles to the performance sneaker revolution of the 80s and 90s. Because with the way Wilson designed the uppers as well as the outsole, you could now stop on a dime and move more aggressive than really ever before. Next, let's go to the 2003 US Open, where it looked all but lost for Andy Roddick, down 2-0 in the US Open semifinals against David Nalbandian. At the time of that match, Roddick had been playing for about a year now, and the number 9 shoe on this list, which is the Reebok Fig Jam. The Reebok Fig Jam was one of the first true maximalist tennis shoes made for the more brutal and punishing style of tennis the early 2000s was ushering in. And just like these shoes were designed to do, Roddick was able to grit out a marathon US Open semifinal and clinch his first and only major title that weekend, proving that the shoes that he helped design could do exactly what they were designed to do: get absolutely beat to a pulp and still keep kicking. Coming in at number 8, we go to 2020, where Naomi Osaka and Nike decided to take Nike's basketball success and bring it to the world of tennis with the Nike Air Zoom GP Turbo. This sneaker brings the Zoom Strobel unit, full-length Zoom Air unit, and full-length Pebex technology all together to make one of the most high-performing shoes I've ever seen come across my desk. And the reason the GP Turbo makes this pretty elite list is because this shoe is the blueprint for tennis shoe technology going into the 2020s and beyond. And at number 7, we come across Andre Agassi in 2002, really laying the foundations for the tennis fitness regimens that are now keeping players at the top of their game well into their 30s. And on his feet at that time were one of the most elegantly designed speed and stability focused shoes ever made: the Nike Air Court Implosion. They had the same basic design as a snowshoe, but with wicked aerodynamics, which meant you could stay balanced even when screeching to a stop and bolting the other direction, like Agassi did so well. And perhaps the biggest testament to the Air Court Implosion is that most of Nike's speed-focused tennis shoes are still based on this classic design. The number 6 tennis shoe on this list takes us back to 1989, where that era's next generation was taking firm control of the game, all while a new player in sneaker tech was also emerging. The Reebok Pump, worn by Michael Chang, the youngest men's tennis player to ever win a Grand Slam, was taking tennis and basketball by storm. Now, pump technology is really pretty simple. It works the exact same way a fracture boot does. You pump this little ball up in the tongue and air inflates into the shoe. However, it does give you a much more custom and secure fit than a lot of other shoes did with just standard lacing. And that custom fit, coupled with the high top design, meant you could really throw your body around and get away with it, just as evidenced by Michael Chang's lightning quick retrieving style, eventually earning him that French Open trophy. And then the pump is still going strong today, and it doesn't look like it's going anywhere anytime soon. At number 5, we're back to present day, where we not long ago witnessed Novak Djokovic try to equal Steffi Graf's Golden Slam. And no matter what your opinion is of Djokovic, and even though he was ultimately unsuccessful, witnessing his attempt at the Golden Slam over that year showed the superhuman demand on the body and mind that accomplishment requires. It also places extraordinary demands on your feet, which is part of the reason the Asics Court FF2 makes this list at number 5. Never have I seen a shoe with not only the design, but the real-world ability to function at peak performance no matter where on court you are, what position your feet are in, or how much of the shoe is actually contacting the ground. And I think when fans look back at the late 2010s and the early 2020s, the Court FF2 can kind of summarize that entire era of tennis, and you won't really have to say another word about it. What makes the number 4 tennis shoe on this list so interesting is that before it, every tennis shoe basically looked the same. But during the 1970s, people started watching tennis on color television, and in 1973, that's when the Adidas Billie Jean King really made a splash during the Battle of the Sexes. Even though she had been wearing these shoes long before that match, it was the international spectacle of her playing against Bobby Riggs that really brought these shoes to the forefront. The blue suede uppers and more gripping outsole made this shoe not only a visually stunning tennis sneaker for the time, but actually a darn good shoe for the more all-court movement that tennis was taking on during that period. And actually, a Boost model of these has recently been re-released in limited quantities to commemorate the Battle of the Sexes, and you can also see these shoes in the movie based on that match. But before I get into the top 3 tennis shoes of all time, I'd love to know what your favorite tennis shoes of all time are, so leave me a comment down below and let me know. Now, starting off the top 3, it's back to 2002. However, the shoes that occupy this spot had been around for several years by this point, and like them, the person wearing them at the time was considered out of date and out of time. However, when Pete Sampras stepped on court against Andy Roddick at that year's US Open, and his simple, timeless game style completely dismantled the younger, flashier Roddick, it told you everything you needed to know about Pete Sampras, as well as the number 3 shoe on this list, the Nike Air Oscillate. The beauty of the Air Oscillate is its simplicity. The shoe puts you in a foot-flat, low-to-the-ground position with a massive undercarriage support system and has those overlapped paneled uppers which don't allow your feet to buckle. It's a timeless design and its influence can still be seen in shoes today, including Federer's custom-on Roger Pros. The penultimate shoe on this list is probably the most famous shoe on this list, and even if I didn't have it in my hand under the desk, once I said the name, you could probably picture it with near 100% accuracy. Because the Adidas Stan Smith has been an icon since the 1970s, since they put his face on the tongue. So much so that a lot of times people don't realize that aren't tennis fans that Stan Smith was an actual tennis player, not just a name on a sneaker. And a lot like the Billie Jean Kings, when they came out, they actually did represent a giant leap forward in tennis shoe technology. It just so happened that they looked pretty cool too, and the design is kind of timeless. But the really funny thing about the Stan Smiths is they were around well before Stan Smith, and they were endorsed by other players. It's just when Adidas signed Stan Smith, they slapped his face on the tongue, and because Stan Smith had kind of a laid-back, kind of cool style, people really connected to his personal style and the style of the shoe, and that's what kind of made the shoe the icon that it is today. And before I get to the number 1 shoe on this list, I really do want to make one honorable mention. There were so many great shoes that didn't make this list, but the one that stuck out to me that I had to make mention of was the Nike Air Tech Challenge. This shoe has so much going on with it. It really comes at the intersection of pop culture and tennis, especially when you consider who was wearing it at the time with Andre Agassi in the early 90s. You know, it's got the shag carpet strobo board, the visible air, the synthetic leather uppers, kind of the different colorways with the black denim on them. So if you can get your hands on a pair of these even just to kick around in, I definitely suggest them. These are some of the coolest shoes in my collection. Definitely deserve at least an honorable mention on this list. And at number 1, you know, there's really no player, tournament, or moment that really can do this shoe justice. At this point, at least in my opinion, they're kind of bigger than that. And the shoe I'm talking about is the Adidas Barricade, specifically the Barricade 2. The Barricade 2 was a defining line in tennis shoes as well as just tennis, mixing durability and playability into almost the perfect design with a streamlined fit, a monster truck grip, and effortless court movement. They were one shoe for just about any and all players, and I challenge you to find a tape of a tennis club that didn't have somebody playing in these. And since the Barricade 2's release, the Barricade line has gone through multiple reincarnations over the decades, some winners and some losers. However, when anybody asks me what my perfect tennis shoe is, I still always think of the Barricade. Now, of course, this list represents the best tennis shoes across a large period of time. So if you want to see what the best tennis shoes of right now are, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam, and an awesome time making this video. I'll see you in the next one.